Hi again, everyone. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on Julie Oringer's story Pilgrims, and in addition to Riley's very helpful video, I'm just going to share a few thoughts of my own, which are about the beginning of the story, or at least some of them are. So, the beginning of a story is really important. It's where you guide your reader into the world of your story. You can think of it as putting your reader on a mountain with a backpack on, and you have to put just enough in the backpack for the reader to keep going, but not so much that the reader falls backward, right? So Oringer really sets up the story just in the first page by letting you know exactly what world you're in, who to care about, what the central tensions are. So in that story, which begins, it was Thanksgiving Day and hot because this was New Orleans. They were driving uptown to have dinner with strangers. You get a time of year and Thanksgiving, a time you should be grateful. You have a place, New Orleans, you have the heat. So you already have the sense that the characters are uncomfortable because of that. And then you hear that they're having dinner with strangers, which also is kind of a not typical thing on Thanksgiving and shows further discomfort. And as you follow the story along, you get Ella pushed at her loose tooth with the tip of her tongue and fan her legs with the hem of her velvet dress. So you get Ella as your point of view character. That's the person to follow. Then next to her, you have her brother fidgeting with his pilgrim costume. So there's something kind of different about the brother, that he also is uncomfortable, that he's fidgeting. He doesn't want to go to this place either. And then you get the parents in the front seat. So you kind of get your hierarchy of characters. You get Ella as your main point of view character. If they're strangers, they're going to see you have the brother, and then you have the parents. And then in the final sentence of that first paragraph, you get the mom is bald beneath her hat, and you go on to learn that she has chemotherapy, that she has cancer, which, as Riley points out, a word is never said in the story, but the story is about this hardship that the family's facing and how they're going to deal with it. You get a lot there already. You got the tooth, the family, Thanksgiving, the strangers, you don't know who they are, and you have this arc of tension of who the strangers are going to be and how, if anything's going to happen to that tooth, and then how the family deals with the mother's condition. And some things that I noted in the story was this tooth that keeps coming up again and again, right? First Ella just finds it loose, and so once you got a loose tooth, it's like Chekhov's gun idea of if you see a gun at the beginning, of Act 1 in a play, it's going to go off by the end. And so you have this loose tooth, and you ask yourself, well, how is it going to finally fall out? And the way it does fall is when Ella finds herself in this kind of horrific treehouse scene and is thrown from the treehouse, or just jumps and then loses her tooth, and is very, very upset by it. But then by the end of the story, when Clary is pushed and hurt and potentially dead, right, Ella finds this tooth. And earlier in the story, she would have been happy receiving her own tooth. She felt like something was taken from her. She can't give it to the tooth fairy, which is still something she believes in while she's in this really hard real world with realities like her mother being sick. It means something magical to her. And then by the end, she puts it in Clary's hand. So she changes her view. She changes throughout the story, and she becomes more initiated into this dark world of the family, and gives her the tooth as kind of an act of maybe she's sorry. It's her way to apologize for what happened, but also an initiation that she's kind of joined this world. And so the tooth is this prop that you can follow throughout the world of the story. Riley talked about shoes and making things concrete, and here the tooth is this additional symbol that represents something being taken from Ella, that she's losing literally a part of herself, maybe this childhood innocence that believes in the tooth fairy, and is giving it to Clary, maybe the way that Clary valued that red glass and said it was her mother. So the tooth, you follow through the story. In the beginning, she wants to keep it more than anything, and by the end, she gives it to this other girl because the girl might need it more than she does. And that kind of transformation shows that in the beginning, these people are strangers, as said in the first sentence, and by the end, they're not quite strangers anymore, that they mean something to Ella, and that kind of brings me to the title of the story, Pilgrims, and this idea of who's the pilgrim and who is the Native American, right? And so it seems to me that the family visiting these other people are not the pilgrims, that the pilgrims are the people they're visiting, and that they're kind of learning their ways. And it's a story about dealing with grief, right? And the people that they visit are meditating and eating seitan and chanting and doing, these different rituals to, it seems like, deal with the death of Claire's mom in a sense, and maybe other hardships that there are unspoken in the story. And this family kind of joins their world and becomes, and Ella is initiated into this darkness, and then doesn't even tell her mom what happened. She just leaves with her as if that will make it not real, this potential, fatal injury to Clary. And just the last thing I wanted to mention is this, just that the story is written in 2003, or the collection that it's from, How to Breathe Underwater, and some of the things that it describes, like meditation and eating gluten-free food, in 2020 is, depending on where you live, isn't nearly as different and as odd as it might be to someone in 2003. So that's just a place and time thing, that meditation is something a lot of people talk about now, and so is being gluten-free or eating seitan. But in 2003, this was like this weird alternate universe for the character. So I just thought that was a funny note. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I did, and just look out for information that you received already from my email. Make sure you follow that, and know that your first assignment about pilgrims is due this Wednesday. I look forward to reading it.